So Phase 3 just recently came out, and I wanted to do an overview of some of the different parts of it. Like the previous phases, this one also has a passive tree to work on throughout the whole event. There will be certain espers that are better at the different stages, and we'll kind of see how that evolves over time. So before we get into everything, there are some parts I won't be able to show you because my recordings basically became corrupted, and I had to just kind of figure out different fragments that I could use. But I can show you the different teams I used for different aspects. Like this team, for example, is the one I used to clear all the normal floors. Basically not boss floors. It worked out really well, but it's just one of those standard control teams that you can probably come up with one of your own. Now the more interesting team is actually the boss team itself. So what makes this boss unique is that when you go to attack it, it will actually do damage to you proportional to its attack. And that can mean that sometimes just randomly hitting it might lead to one of your espers dying. So I'm actually going to use the Ollie strat that we used for one of the other messengers. And this means that Ollie will do damage proportional to the boss's HP and will do it very consistently. So it scales, and it should scale all the way to floor 150. The rest of the team functions as a support system for Ollie, basically making sure that he's able to use his ultimate as much as possible, as well as reducing his cooldowns. I wish I could show you a video of this in action, but I don't have one, so I have to wait until the rest of the floors get released to show you how it works. This is the Chimera Team, and it works out really well. I'll briefly go over some different aspects before touching Team 3. So on Team 1 you don't need Unis. You can use Ahmed or Hathor or anyone else who has advantage on the first team. So on Team 2, you don't need to be as strong as you did in the previous phase, because your score is split over 3 teams. This means you can probably swap out YC to someone else who has advantage on this boss, like Apollo. Now if you watched my previous video for phase 2, you probably noticed that I have swapped out Chai and swapped in Ira for Team 2, and that's mainly because Chai is better on Team 3 than on Team 2. Team 3 is rather unique, and the Sunken Viper is a rather unique boss to fight, and the reason why is because it does damage to you whenever you do damage to it. This means you want to orient your team around a couple damage dealers and a few supports. So first up we're using Sander because he has a speed lead, he is a Tide Collar Esper, which means he has advantage against this boss, and he has a speed break, which is very crucial. And make sure to take note that Sander and Brewster are both on lifesteal to have better sustain against this boss. So we're using Brewster because he's a Tide Collar Esper, which means he has advantage against this boss, but more importantly, he applies defense break really consistently. Next up we're using Unki, and the reason why we're using him is because he's able to reduce the cooldowns on our other espers. This means Sahua and Asenath will be focused mostly on healing and buffing rather than attacking. So Sahua is fantastic because she works with Unki so well, and her invincibility that she offers on her skill 2 basically lets our espers who are low of health be able to sustain themselves back up. Lastly, we're using Asenath because she's another Tide Collar Esper, which means she has advantage, but she also offers an AP boost, basically like a way to reduce half the damage we take, and some decent sustain. Just to be clear, I fully believe in these teams. I believe you can use Team 3 all the way to the end and get EX++ and all the rewards. As I mentioned before, there's actually going to be a lot of buffs on this team, and they're basically there to cycle with Chai, but they're going to be extremely useful for your 2 attacking espers. Against this boss, the 2 debuffs that matter the most are Defense Break and Speed Break, because it's basically windows to do more damage. So I think you have an idea of how the team works. I'm going to go ahead and speed it along with some music, and I'll meet you at the end. So at this stage, you just want to survive to the end so other teams can perform better. But later, when we unlock more passes, we're going to be able to definitely hold our own and definitely get EX++ on this team. So we're just going to check the kind of our standings right now. And if we look at it, we're actually going to be at number 3. Now this is perfectly fine for what I consider like the least amount of legendary espers used. As always, if you have any questions or if you'd like to share teams that work for you, please leave them in the comments below. I'm sure that many people like to see those. For now, thank you for watching.